Hey everybody, how's it going? So, when it comes to digital copyright laws, we are clearly not sending our best because in Mexico they are going to have a lot of the same anti-repair crap in their laws that we do. Yay! So let's scroll down here and check out what this article says. This is a Google Translate, so it's not really the best. I'll include the original link to the article down below. Installing a custom ROM, downloading, and using software that does not come from the same provider, and even repairing a phone, involves breaking a digital lock, also known as DRM, which is now expressly prohibited in the federal copyright law. The digital locks, or TPMs, using hardware manufacturers and developers for their copyrights are protected. In this way, users cannot copy the information that the systems contain and cannot access the software code. The problem is that breaking the padlocks is part of the process to repair a computer, update a device that has been discontinued by the manufacturer, or prevent a device from collecting user information. The new free trade agreement between Mexico, the United States, and Canada enters into force on July 1st. It was a priority of Congress that before it happened, a series of laws were harmonized, among which is the federal law on copyright. Although civil organizations such as the Network for the Defense of Digital Rights in Article 19 denounced that the law could give way to cases of prior censorship, and the debate loomed but did not materialize in the Senate, the reforms to the law were approved both in the Senate and in the Chamber of Deputies on June 29th and 30th, respectively. The same document established that digital locks must not be broken, with very few exceptions. Digital padlocks can be broken only in these situations. The exceptions approved are as follows. When the purpose is interoperability, that means that users will be able to migrate from one system to another on their devices. An example is the transition that government agencies are going through so that their systems use open source. It is for this exception that they would not be committing a violation of the law. I'm kind of curious about this one and the interpretation of it. So if we're doing a data recovery and we have to break a bunch of padlocks that we can migrate you from your old device to your new one, does that count? Or is this only talking about cases of government migration where you're mandated by law to use certain types of software? But I'm curious. Next, when you want to prevent minors from accessing inappropriate content. If a digital padlock is broken to include security measures for minors, then it is allowed. When the purpose is to test, investigate, or correct the security of a computer system, or network. When a nonprofit educational institution must access a work as long as it's for the purpose of deciding whether to buy all the material. When a person wants their device to stop collecting personal information. In this way, a user can prevent her smartphone from collecting the GPS location history. When an authorized person must do it to protect national security. This point has caused debate about how ambiguous it may be. When an investigator must analyze flaws in a technology, as long as he has obtained it legally. When a nonprofit person adapts a system to other languages or couples it to be accessible to people with some type of disability. Other exceptions may be admitted as long as there is a request through the Institute of Intellectual Property where there must be evidence to support the request. Although there are not a few exceptions, none are included that refer to purposes that have to do with repairing a device and extending its useful life. Of course, why would we include an exception that has to do with fixing it? Screw that! Sell more. When the document went through the Senate, the issue was put on the table by Senator Antares Guadalupe Vazquez Alator, my apologies for butchering that name, who said that before, attempts have been made to abuse the prohibition to break digital locks to try to criminalize those who repair televisions, computers, and virtually any personal technology device. The case, however, can extend to the well-known case of farmers who decided in the United States to repair their own tractors by themselves, the senator explained. Apparently, someone who is awake and paying attention. This is nice. So, one of the problems that I had when I was speaking to a lot of the senators and assembly people, the worst was in Maine, where one of the constituents said, "Hey, I emailed you about this issue." The guy says, "I haven't been able to log into my government email since I was elected. I can't figure it out." Not kidding. So there are a lot of representatives that are not really aware of what's going on in the world. And this one seems to take the effort to figure out what's going on in the world. So I don't know what, politics are and everything else, but good on them. But users, we have the right to maintain or repair objects that are our property, he said. Devices of all kinds have technological protection measures that prevent anyone from knowing how they work, repair or modify them in legal ways, as for example with people who fix vehicles. This can be misinterpreted and then we could have problems if, for example, I take my vehicle to a repair to a place that is not the agency. There are two ways to punish violations of the law. This is my favorite. This is the best part of this. You ready? You ready? There are two ways to punish violations of the law: the civil or the administrative way, and the criminal way. For the second route, it is necessary to make modifications to the Federal Penal Code, which were also approved in sessions of the Senate and Chamber of Deputies. So if I bypass a digital padlock to do my job, that can be punished in a criminal way. Wow. It was in the Chamber of Deputies where it was hinted that the exceptions to breaking digital locks in the Penal Code should be thoroughly reviewed, but that it will be until after the approval of the reform. So, AK, we can worry about that shit later. Who cares if repair is literally criminalized? The deputy, Mariana Rodriguez, mentioned the idea of eventually making an open forum where the results serve to make changes to the penal code again. Meanwhile, civil organizations have already confirmed that they will push the issue to the Supreme Court of Justice of the nation, the last instance that can reverse the reforms. For now, the only thing missing for them to take effect is that they must be published by they be published by the president. And this is something to really be aware of, is when there's a lot of unsavory stuff in the news, bad things happening in the world, coronavirus, protests, police brutality, all this other stuff. One of the things you got to understand is that there's a lot of shit that's going to be sneaking by that is not going to have your attention, because all of your attention is on all this stuff over there. So all of this stuff that you'd usually protest against, usually push back against, doesn't get the pushback because all the attention is on the other stuff going on in the world. And this is something that you're going to notice happening more and more, whether it's trying to make illegal uses of encryption, or whether it is criminally punishing people for fixing their stuff. This is the kind of stuff that is getting snuck through the back door that people are not really going to be paying full attention to. And it is kind of sad to see that it is, again, that the anti-repair stuff we have codified into law in the United States is now spreading to other countries. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.